In the legendary film Rashomon, we discover that the truth is never simple. Each perspective reveals a different story. What you're about to hear is a true Rashomon tale from Hollywood's darkest corners. Which version do you believe? Marie Prevost was a radiant star of the silent film era, a name once whispered with admiration by moviegoers. Her performances were dazzling, her beauty captivating, and her future seemed limitless. But like so many in Hollywood's golden age, the bright lights began to fade all too quickly. And in Marie's case, her descent was as tragic as it was mysterious. By the time of her death in 1937, Marie was no longer the celebrated star she had once been. In fact, she had been largely forgotten by the very industry that once adored her. She was found dead in her Los Angeles apartment, alone and destitute. The official cause of death was malnutrition and complications related to alcoholism. Yet, as with so many tragedies in Hollywood, this story has more than one version. The official account of Marie's death is the most widely accepted. According to this version, Marie had been suffering for years. Her fame had vanished with the advent of sound and film, and with it, so had her financial stability. The transition from silent films to talkies proved difficult for many stars, and Marie was no exception. Her once glamorous lifestyle gave way to poverty and isolation. The official record states that Marie died due to natural causes, her body weakened by years of malnutrition and alcoholism, a cruel reflection of her fading career. But not everyone is convinced that this was simply a case of natural causes. A second version of Marie's story paints a more haunting picture. According to this perspective, Marie's death was the result of something far more intentional. Some believe that in her final days, Marie had fallen into such despair over her financial ruin and loneliness that she may have deliberately chosen to stop eating, pushing herself deeper into her frail state. She was, after all, nearly penniless and virtually abandoned by the friends and colleagues who once filled her life. This theory suggests that her death was a slow, heartbreaking decision made in the depths of hopelessness. It's a story of sorrow and desperation, not just physical decline. This perspective is fueled by the tragic context of her final years. After years of being the darling of the screen, Marie found herself unable to secure new roles. The glamorous parties, the accolades, and the attention, all of it had evaporated, leaving her stranded in a world that had moved on without her. Alone in her apartment, with few visitors and fewer prospects, it's easy to see how her once vibrant spirit could have withered away under the weight of loneliness. The idea that Marie, unable to escape the darkness of her circumstances, may have let herself fade away, is as heart-wrenching as it is plausible. But there's yet another theory, one that suggests her death may not have been entirely self-inflicted at all. Some whisper about the more suspicious aspects of her final days. Though details are scant, there are those who wonder if Marie's death was, in fact, hastened by something more sinister. Could there have been outside factors at play? Perhaps someone in her circle who didn't have her best interests at heart. Or maybe she was the victim of neglect, left to suffer in silence by those who should have helped her. It's impossible to say for certain, but this theory casts a shadow over the official story, leaving room for doubt and speculation. As we dive deeper into this Rashomon tale, the questions continue to swirl. What really happened to Marie Prevost in her final days? Was it a slow, tragic decline into poverty and illness? Did she make a heartbreaking choice in response to her overwhelming despair? Or was there more to the story, something we may never fully uncover? Hollywood, after all, is a place where the truth often gets lost amidst the glitz and glamour. It's worth noting that in the days after Marie's death, her passing became infamous for an even darker reason. When the authorities arrived at her apartment, they discovered her dog had been with her, likely trying to survive in the absence of food. The tabloids ran wild with this gruesome detail, focusing on the most sensational aspects of her tragic end, rather than the larger story of a woman who had been failed by Hollywood and, ultimately, by those around her. In life, Marie had been a star, a beacon of beauty and talent. But in death, she became a cautionary tale, a reminder of how quickly the Hollywood machine can chew up and spit out its brightest stars. Yet even as her story was turned into a tabloid headline, the real truth of Marie Prevost remains elusive. Was it just a sad end to a life marked by bad luck and bad decisions? Or is there more to the story than meets the eye? The truth, like so many Hollywood scandals, is murky. The facts can be twisted, and each perspective reveals something different. Perhaps we'll never know for sure what happened to Marie Prevost in those final days. But just like the classic film Rashomon teaches us, sometimes the truth is not just one thing, it's many things, viewed through the lens of those who were there and those who came after. What do you believe? Was Marie Prevost's death a simple case of natural causes, a heartbreaking descent into despair, or something even more sinister? In the end, only one thing is certain. Hollywood's golden age wasn't always as golden as it seemed.